Synergy loves company.
We have this coterie of rich franchises, the company now, that people want to engage with.
I came here to try and continue what Walt Disney and his associates set in motion 50 years ago, which is to experiment with every new and innovative kind of entertainment possible.
It's what we hope to do here, to really develop something that, just more than an entertainment enterprise. It's something that contributes many other ways.
Hey, this is Synergy Loves Company, where we explore how Disney connects to everything. I'm Eric, and I'm really excited because it's the fall. It's the harvest season, and you know what gets harvested in the fall. It's grapes. Grapes to make wine. And it got me thinking about the Disney family of wines, which hasn't been really talked about in a while, but it came out around 2016. Disney came up with this grouping of wines that were somehow related to people in the Disney world, in the Disney sphere. So what they said when they released this idea about the Disney family of wines on the D23 website is they said that the Disney family of wines is a carefully curated wine list featuring vineyards that have a connection to Disney's past, present, and future. You can find a selection of these wines at many restaurants throughout the Disney parks and resorts. And some of these wines are still available at the Disney parks and resorts. Some of them are not available anymore for some reasons we'll get into. But most of all, I wanted to try all the wines in the Disney family of wines. So I got a bunch of them, and keeping me company today to help me drink all these wines is my wife, Keri. So Keri, welcome to the show.
Thanks. This is probably the most interesting date night we've done because normally we're not talking to each other in microphones across the table.
That is true. That is very true. You're the last member of our family to be on one of these podcasts too.
I feel very special.
Because you're the last one, or because you held out so long before I got you on one of these? No answer. So you're going to help me drink a lot of wine.
I think I'm up to that task.
Yes, but I will say through the magic of audio editing, we're not going to drink all the wines in one sitting.
Few.
Even though it might sound like that if you're listening to this right now. So when we go to another wine, just know that we took a break in the middle, possibly a day, 2 days longer, who knows? But there are breaks between bottles of wine here. All right, should we get into the first one? We actually have it poured. We have the bottle sitting here in front of us. What do you want to tell us what we're drinking?
This one is from Silverado Vineyards. It is a 2020 Sauvignon Blanc from Miller Ranch. It says it is Napa Valley estate grown. What do we know about this wine?
So the Miller Ranch is very special to Disney because Silverado was founded by and owned for a very long time by Lillian Disney, Walt's wife, Diane Disney Miller, his daughter, and Ron Miller, Walt's son-in-law, who was the CEO of Disney for a while.
Interesting.
So this one in the Disney family of wines, this one is the familiest of those, the Disney familiest. So a couple of things about Lillian, Diane, and Ron real quick. So they founded the Silverado Winery in 1981. This is when Ron Miller was still the CEO of Disney, right? A little bit before Michael Eisner took over, and Ron Miller was unceremoniously ousted from the company. But Ron Miller is known really a lot for his he started Touchstone Pictures and brought that to Disney. And he is also known for starting the Disney Channel, which just turned 40, I think, this year.
Wow.
So he did a lot of things that became bigger later on, but at the time he wasn't necessarily recognized for it. And then, of course, Diane Disney Miller was known for being one of those kids who was riding that carousel when Walt Disney was sitting on the side of it and thinking about making a Disneyland as his story goes. So let's try this one and we'll see how it tastes. We'll give our assessments. I don't know a Sauvignon Blanc so well.
They're usually not my favorite whites, but this one is actually quite good.
I can't say that I've ever had one. I'm not a big wine drinker. It is pretty good though.
It is.
It's not very, we have it chilled because it is a white.
Yes.
It's not super flavorful, but it's like not super fruity, but not super dry. Does that make sense?
Yes. Clearly we're not wine connoisseurs.
No, we're not.
But it's got kind of a crisp flavor to it. It's not, you're right, it's not super dry at all, but it's not overly sweet. I'm not a sweet wine person, but this is pretty good. It feels very like Napa Valley, California.
Well, that's where it came from.
Right.
So that's pretty good. I like that. Crisp. That was a good way to say it. So did you have more to say about the wine?
No.
Because I have the Disney question.
Go
Because
for
I
it.
have a Disney question. I didn't tell you that up front. So I'm putting you on the spot. With every wine we have, I have a related Disney question. So this is the wine from the Disney family. So not only is it our first one in the Disney family of wines, but it is from members of the Disney family. So unfortunately today, the Disney family doesn't own Silverado anymore.
Sad.
Just last year, they did have to sell it because all of the members of the family who were big into it, those three founders, have all passed away. And the remaining Disneys did not want to keep it going. So they sold it to the Foley family of wines. So if you see Foley wines out there, they're the ones who own Silverado right now. But the Diane Disney Miller and Ron Miller are also known for starting the Disney Family Museum, also in San Francisco, not too far from Silverado. So this question's all about family that I have for you. So we've gone on quite a few trips to the Disney parks as a family. And I want to know, what's your favorite Disney family memory of our family going to the Disney parks?
Ooh. I mean, that would have to be the first trip with the kids, seeing the Cinderella Castle for the first time. I mean, that's pretty iconic with young children to kind of see that for the first time and see their faces. That would probably be my favorite memory, although I don't think either of the children remembers that. Me personally, that was a pretty good one.
Nice. That is a good one. You reminded me of another moment that was... I didn't even think of this until you were talking about their first time going and seeing the castle. Do you remember when we told the kids the first time that we were going to Disney and we got the cameras ready like it was the commercial on TV?
Yeah. It was very anticlimactic.
And they were just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
We're like,
cool,
we're going to Disney.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Like, really? That's it? But yeah. No, that was a good trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were much more excited once we got there.
Yes.
For sure.
Because then they fully kind of knew that it was a big deal.
Yes. Now, my question, this may be incredibly dumb, so you may want to edit this out. So a 2020 refers to the year the grapes were harvested, the year the wine was bottled.
I don't know. We might have to use the magic of the internet to look that one up.
All right.
What does
I know nothing about the process of harvesting and making wine other than one episode of I Love Lucy.
When she stomps the grapes. Yes.
Yeah, that's my my knowledge of winemaking.
All right. So the wine vintage, as it's called, is the year in which the grapes were harvested. Thanks to
how much time passes between when a grape is harvested and when it is bottled.
The grape growing season, well, it goes to like October, and I would imagine they bottle it.
I did not know that grape harvesting happened in the fall.
Yeah, I looked that up too. I'm not going to lie.
Apples, pumpkins,
Yeah.
wine. One more reason to love fall.
So it seems like they probably bottle it pretty much the same year because you want to do it while the wine is fresh.
Didn't your dad make wine? I don't remember much of that process
he did,
though.
but he bought the grapes, so you could buy them like
Gotcha.
off times. But yes, so what we figured is that it's the year they were grown.
The grapes are harvested. Well, you have to plant the plants long before. But I imagine, like most fruit, it takes a while before they produce enough that you could make a bunch of wine out of it.
True.
But again, I Love Lucy is my frame of reference.
Yeah, we don't know that much, but we enjoy drinking it. And
that's all that matters.
This Silverado Sauvignon Blanc was pretty good.
It is pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so this next one we have here, we're going to move on to our next wine, is a Chardonnay. Can you tell us where it came from?
It is a Fess Parker from Santa Barbara County. It is a 2022.
So this one's a little newer than our Sauvignon Blanc.
It is. It says it has flavors of ripe apple, butter, lemon, and melon with a light toasty oak. I do enjoy an oaky Chardonnay.
Now, can I ask you, as a modern day Disney fan, do you know who Fess Parker is?
No clue.
I'm going to ask you then next to take a look closer at the bottle and then tell me if you can guess who Fess Parker is.
There is like a Daniel Boone kind of cap on the top.
Or...
which says since 1989.
Not Daniel Boone, but who's the other guy who wore a hat like that?
Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett, yes. So Fess Parker was Davy Crockett on the Disneyland TV show back in the 50s.
Okay.
He was the one who popularized the hat.
Interesting.
So you went straight to Daniel Boone, though, not Davy Crockett. King of the Wild Frontier. So that's who Fess Parker was. But he's probably he's probably the first Disney TV superstar, and he was on the Disneyland TV show that was like the first Disney TV show. So it was like the first big hit on the first Disney TV project. So you could kind of think of it in that way. So he continued on. He had a big career. He mostly did a lot of Western stuff, kind of in the same vein as
typecast.
Yes, of course, as his Davy Crockett stuff. And then so in 1988, as you said on the bottle, he bought this ranch in Santa Barbara, and that's where he started a small winery. He wanted a family business to pass on to his kids, his grandkids, as like something that they would have from like what he earned and kind of make that thing to pass on to them.
Smart.
So his family still runs the winery today, and they've kind of grown it. There's a lot of tasting rooms around that area and a lot of stuff. And of course, they used his little raccoon hat as their logo to honor Davy Crockett.
All right.
So let's taste this thing. Now, you're a fan of Chardonnays.
I am.
How does this one stack up? Like, what's the...
It's not as oaky as I would have hoped. It does say a light toasty oak on the palate. I'm getting more of the fruit flavors, though, that apple, lemon, melon that they're talking about instead of the butter and the oak.
I got the apple a lot, I feel like.
Yeah.
Definitely a fruitier Chardonnay. Now, we do have more Chardonnays coming up.
So we'll have to compare.
Those ones will be easier to compare, where if we want to compare this Chardonnay to the Sauvignon Blanc, that's like, I don't want to say apples to oranges because it's grapes to grapes, but they're different grapes.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have the Disney question then that goes along with our fine glass of wine here. So Davy Crockett helped make the Disneyland TV show like a big super success. Everyone wanted to watch it. Everyone wanted the hat, and it was a big deal. And like we said, he was one of the big TV stars, and he paved the way, I would say, for Disney branded television. So, What is your favorite Disney TV show?
There's way too many choices. I don't know that I have a favorite Disney TV show. You did make me think, though, of the episodes of various shows where they go to Disney World or Disneyland.
Yes.
Those are definitely iconic. I mean, you got to think about like the Full House, the double episode where Jesse and the Rippers perform at the Cinderella Castle and Michelle is in, the parade. I mean, that's a pretty iconic one. You got Sabrina the Teenage Witch going to Animal Kingdom when they first opened. That was kind of a cool way to show off the brand new park. Blackish did an episode and they did Disney, and Bo was pregnant and she showed how you can do Disney pregnant, which is totally something you don't even think about.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So yeah, all the shows that got to go to Disney. Oh, we just recently watched the Wonder Years reboot where they went to Disney back in the 60s, and Disney brought out some of the old stuff, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, they did do that. I wish there was more in that episode though, because it was kind of like all at the end.
Yeah. Trying to go back in time, I imagine, was difficult to film, but that was pretty cool.
That's true. Didn't the Goldbergs do a similar thing with Disneyland where they only ended up there at the end, if I remember correctly? Because they did like a National Lampoon's Vacation spoof, so it was about the road trip, and that's kind of what the Wonder Years was like.
Yeah, it was
too.
very similar.
But no, going back to that Full House one, we might be sitting in a bubble in the living seas right now recording this.
Yes, that would be amazing.
We could be. You don't know.
That's where we'll open the next bottle of wine.
Yes,
you may see us
in the living seas bubble radio studio that Uncle Jesse and Joey, who was not an uncle, were recording it. And they were somehow recording a San Francisco like live
you can't think
radio show
too deep into it. They were like the Ryan Seacrest of their day, Their
Satellite.
Rush Hour radio show was national. So
there you go. The Rush Hour Renegades, isn't that what they're called?
Yes, it was.
There we go. We're the Rush Hour Renegades right now here on this podcast. But no, that's some good. Those are the best sitcom crossover episodes. And really, Disney on TV wouldn't have happened without Fess Parker making it a big deal, in my opinion.
All right, to Fess Parker.
There we go. Oh yes, we can get it. See, we get a clink in there. There we go. Awesome. All right, we got more wine to go.
Oh man,
lots more. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. The next one is a Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir?
Noir.
Okay. I said something like that. As you know, I don't drink this one that often. No, as you can tell. So what is it? Tell us what it is.
It is MacMurray Estate Vineyards. It is a Pinot Noir from the Central Coast 2021. And this does say that it comes from the Central Coast of California, and that the namesake Russian River Valley Vineyard was once owned by actor Fred MacMurray.
Yes. So there you go. It's Fred MacMurray. Fred MacMurray, we saw him on something we were watching the other day. We were watching that documentary about sitcoms, and he was the dad in My Three Sons. So they showed stuff, and I pointed at the TV and almost said something, because if you're out there listening right now, usually what happens in our house is something that I know a Disney tidbit happens, and then I point it out and I announce it to the whole house, and y'all don't usually seem to care.
It's like the live action version of this podcast.
It's true.
Every day in our household, we are the test
Yes.
audience.
But I didn't say it then. I just pointed at the TV and then stopped myself because I knew you wanted to keep the information fresh for the podcast that we're recording here. So
Yes.
Fred MacMurray was the dad in My Three Sons, but he bought this winery actually a long, long time before like even that happened. It was in 1941. And that's even before he worked with Disney or was famous for that. He bought this. He had been an actor before. And then he bought this winery and kind of had it as like a ranch. But in 1996, it would become acclaimed for its Pinot Noir. So this is their signature wine. So yeah. So even though he bought it a long time ago, it took a while.
This one says that it has flavors of cherry and pomegranate, accented with hints of vanilla and oak.
So there we go. So give it a try. We still, as you're sipping, I will say, because we didn't actually talk about Disney, we just talked about My Three Sons. But Fred MacMurray was known for, he did roles in Disney movies back in like the 60s, like The Shaggy Dog, The Absent-Minded Professor, and its sequel, The Son of Flubber. So those like Robin Williams Flubber things are remakes of the old movies. So when people say like, you know, all Disney does is remake, we've been doing it for a long time. And then he was also in Follow Me Boys and The Happiest Millionaire. And he actually is the very first person to become a Disney legend.
Oh.
So Fred MacMurray and Disney go way back. So what did you think of this one when you were tasting it?
You can taste the cherry for sure.
For sure, yeah. I don't know. I know I like a Cabernet Sauvignon, as you would say, or as I would say, because no one else would say it like that. But I don't know that I've ever had a Pinot Noir.
No?
No, I don't. I can't remember having one, but it's very good.
Yeah.
As far as a red goes.
This one's good.
It's like a fruity red.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not very dry.
So no, I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So Fred MacMurray was the first Disney legend, and he's known for his live action roles. So I got to ask, what kind of Disney live action movies are your favorite? Disney live action movies. We have some more recent ones, but there's also some classics. Maybe you're a
Yes.
Fred MacMurray fan. Maybe not.
Yeah, there's been some live action remakes of some of the princess movies, which are pretty good.
Yeah.
I know in our household, we've seen a lot of the Disney Channel original movies
Oh, yes,
with the live action, you know, all the High School Musicals,
for sure.
the Descendants, Zombies. You know, we've got some family fans of those. So
Yes.
so those probably stick in my mind the most because
The
they're
more-
the most
Replayed?
most replayed videos on the repertoire.
That could go into the television conversation we had too.
Yes.
You know, those DComs. But yeah. No, do you have a favorite live action Disney movie of all time? And it doesn't have to be Zombies 3.
You know,
No.
I am a Beauty and the Beast fan. So I think the live action remake of that was pretty good. I also really enjoyed Into the Woods.
Ooh,
That
Into
was
the Woods.
a very good one.
Actually, you unlocked a secret tidbit about our lives
That's true.
because we were both in Into the Woods a long, long time ago. And that's kind of where we met. Ish,
Yes.
around that time when we were
Yes.
in Into the Woods. So there you go.
But
You-
the Disney remake was
better than
far
ours.
superior
Than
than-
our, yeah.
than our high school production.
Oh, which was a high school musical. So to
Oh.
double back to that,
Yes.
there you go. So yes, Into the Woods was really good. The
Yes.
Disney one.
It was very well done.
Yes. Oh, I like that answer.
I had to love Meryl Streep as the witch.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic.
There we go. Pinot Noir, Fred MacMurray. This is, I guess, his signature his signature wine.
It is pretty good. I can understand why it's their signature.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So we're getting into the next, our final couple of wines here. And the next two are Chardonnays. And I probably, if I would have thought about it differently, could have put that Chardonnay that we drank like a
few nights ago.
Just 2 wines ago.
2 wines ago. Yes.
Not nights ago.
Sorry.
That's not how this
Through
works.
the magic of podcasting.
Exactly.
2 wines ago.
So like maybe 10 minutes ago. But anyways, we probably could have put those together. So you have to remember about 10 minutes ago what that last one tasted like, because we will have had 3 Chardonnays before our tastings are done. But anyways, here's our next wine. This Chardonnay I already introduced. I will say it's from the Chapelet Winery. And what can you tell us about it?
So this is from Sonoma County. It says it is exposed to the fog and wind that funnel through the Petaluma Gap. And it is a cool climate vineyard where the Chardonnay ripens slowly, developing pure, vibrant flavors and ideal acidity. So it says it has layers of citrus, tropical fruit, and spice.
Ooh.
It's a little bit of a different flavor profile than some of the other Chardonnay that we tried.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see
For sure.
what it tastes like.
All right. So Chapelet, you probably don't think of Disney when you hear Chapelet.
No.
And I have to say it's kind of a stretch as to how this one is part of the Disney family of wines. But let me remind us all that Disney chose this list of the family of wines. So this is how this one works. So the Chapelet Winery is owned by Don Chapelet and Molly Wells Chapelet. And Molly Wells is the sister of Frank Wells. And Frank Wells was the president of the Walt Disney Company from 1984 until he passed away in 1994. And he was the balance or counterpoint to young Michael Eisner when the Eisner era took off in the 80s. So the Disney board wanted a new CEO when Disney was going to be taken over in a hostile takeover. And they thought that Michael Eisner was too unproven and new and young. He didn't have the experience of running a studio. He did some great films with Paramount, but he didn't have that experience. So they proposed this idea of having Michael Eisner and Frank Wells, who had some experience running a studio. And they kind of it really worked out well where Frank Wells was like, you get to be the CEO. I'm going to kind of take the back seat. I'll be the president. We'll work together. We'll make it happen. And that kind of paved the way for that like big Eisner era, as people call it, what happened in the 80s and then the 90s, the Disney decade and all that fun stuff. So Wells had the experience and was willing to let Eisner take that spotlight. And I guess the rest is just history. The Eisner-Wells era was a smashing success. That is until Wells wasn't around anymore. And then Michael Eisner, that's another story for another podcast. But he was that balance, that counterpoint to Michael Eisner.
So this is his sister's winery.
Yes. So as I gush about Frank Wells, this is his sister's winery that is the claim to fame.
Alrighty. So Disney adjacent.
Yes. But remember, Disney picked which wineries would be part of the Disney family of wines. So they approve of this message. All right, let's try this one. It doesn't have as much flavor as the last one we had.
No.
This one's from 2020, which the other Chardonnay we had was also from 2020.
Yeah, I'm not getting the tropical fruit, citrus and spice so much. A little bit of the spice.
Yeah, I get the spice. It's
but
like a spicy aftertaste.
Not the tropical.
Dare I say it's a little drier than the other one? That's just the spice.
Yeah.
It's just the spiciness.
Yeah, I don't think it's drier.
Interesting. Because it still is a little fruity. I don't know.
Yes.
Well, there you go. The unproven proven wine palate
Yes.
discretion on
I
it.
will definitely say that the fog and wind does seem to create a different
Yes.
flavor profile, like their description
You
says.
can taste the fog and wind. All right, so we got to get to my Disney question as we sip our wine now. So Frank Wells, in addition to being the president of the Walt Disney Company, he was an avid adventurer. He loved mountain climbing. He actually scaled 6 of the 7 summits.
Impressive.
Yeah. And this is immortalized on a window on Main Street that says Wells Expeditions, as well as there's a sign at the Matterhorn for Wells Expeditions. So to kind of play on that little like love of his. We're about to go on a Disneyland adventure, you could say, an expedition to Disneyland, one of our summits, you could say, as Disney fans. So this is both of our first times going to Disneyland. So what are you most excited about for our upcoming Disneyland adventure?
Definitely some of the original rides and features Disneyland, because it is the first park. It is Walt's dream.
Yes.
So doing some of that like original Disney stuff is iconic, I think. So I'm excited for that, and just to see the differences, whether it be between rides that are in both locations or just comparing and contrasting Main Street, the castle. Just the proximity of the parks to each other is going to be definitely a different experience.
Well, we even had kind of a different experience in that we've started booking things, and it's like you don't necessarily think of it in the same way as when you're at Disney World. When we go to Walt Disney World, we love the Skyliner, we love like all the forms of transportation, but it's like no, walking is the most important because everything's so close.
Yes, and we're not staying on property. So staying at a good neighbor hotel is a different concept. So I'm curious to see how that will be compared to our Disney property trips in the past.
It's going to be weird that we walk past a Panera to get to a Disney park.
Yes, that will be different.
I mean, I was going to say McDonald's at first, and I was like, wait, though.
Yes.
We have passed McDonald's on Disney property in Orlando, so. But no. Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's a different vibe that we're getting ready for.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be good.
It'll be different weather for sure. I'm very excited about that one.
We'll be there in the spring, and California spring is a lot different than Florida spring.
Yes. So I'm very excited for that part.
Yes. All right. So that's to Frank Wells' sister.
Cheers.
And the Chapelet Winery.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all it takes to get in the Disney family of wine. You got to be related to someone who worked there. Not even work there yourself, but if you're related, you might make it in.
Yes. Well, it's a good quality product.
It is, yeah.
So I can see why Disney added it to the list.
Right, because you can get a lot of these at places around the parks and the resorts. That was like one of the pushes at the beginning. And I know some of them are definitely still available. Some of them not, but we'll get more into that later on. We've got more wine to try, and then we've got more wines that we aren't going to try but need to talk about.
Yes. Ones to add to our bucket list.
Yes, for sure.
Try them all.
All right, so this next one we're going to have is our third Chardonnay. So we'll have to try to compare them. We just had a Chardonnay.
Yes.
That had a lot of fog and wind flavors. And previously, we had tried another one. So this one comes to us from the Frank family of wines.
Okay.
What do you have about this one?
This one is a 2021, and it is a historic winery established back in 1884. It says that their winery is listed on the Register of National Historic Places. So that's pretty cool.
Indeed.
There is not a lot of information on here about what this one is going to taste like. So it will be a bit of a surprise to us. It's more about the winery, which sounds interesting to visit.
all about the history.
Yes.
All right. So Richard Frank of the Frank family was the president of the Walt Disney Studios from like the studios, the film studios, that is, from 1985 until 1994. And he had originally been at Paramount with Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he was brought over to help Jeffrey Katzenberg run the studio. So that included, the studio would include all the live action and animated stuff in that time period, which is when, if you really think about it, the animation started to get better with that Jeffrey Katzenberg time. And then Richard Frank was there helping make all those movies. He did take over for Jeffrey Katzenberg for a little while after he left. And then he left Disney in about 1994, which, what did it say on the back of there? 1992?
Yes, they founded it in 1992.
So right around that time, before he left Disney, he bought the winery, and then he put more time into the winery. He didn't do too much other media stuff after working with Disney. I do know, weird random fact that I read about him, he is on the board for TerraCycle.
Oh.
So he got into the recycling game.
That's cool.
Yeah. So should we try this one?
Yeah.
How do you think this one stacks up to the other two?
This one's your classic Chardonnay flavor profile. It's not too fruity. It's not too oaky. It's kind of your middle of the road. You order a Chardonnay at a restaurant, you're going to get what you expect.
Something like this.
Yes.
Yeah, this one kind of tastes, I agree, like what I'd expect from a Chardonnay, where the other two had some different things going on.
They had some twists to it. This one is just making the classic Chardonnay.
Which one do you think has been your favorite?
Maybe the first one? It's hard to remember. That was several bottles ago.
Yes. So the first Chardonnay was Fess Parker. That's our Davy Crockett Chardonnay. And then we had our Chapelet and Frank were our three. So Davy Crockett's Fess Parker Chardonnay might be the one that you preferred.
I think so.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know which one was my favorite. I kind of like this one, but I'm drinking it right now, so maybe that's why I like this one.
Yeah.
All right. So Richard Frank, Disney Decade. So the Disney Decade is not just like a thing that people people don't just call it the Disney Decade. Like, in hindsight, Michael Eisner legit in like the early 90s was like, this is going to be the Disney Decade.
He just named it up front.
He named it up front, and then it was big. So that's kind of one of those like things where like Michael Eisner gets that, like, he said it was going to be, and then it happened, which is kind of his greatness, but also his downfall, because he thought that he could say it would be and then it would happen. Kind of thing. And then later on, it doesn't quite happen. But anyways, I do love me some Michael Eisner, as you know. Let me ask, I'm gonna change up what I was going to ask you about a little bit.
All right.
Because I just talked a lot about Michael Eisner there. So for our little Disney discussion question, I want to ask you, what is the weirdest Disney tidbit of information that you know from living in the house with me? Like some random thing that you know that I talk about or have said in passing, because usually I go to say one and you're like, yeah. And then you repeat it back to me and you're like, you told me that already.
Yes.
What's one you could think of?
You tend to repeat yourself. Oh, this is difficult because there are so many things.
Something you thought you would never know about Disney, but then I keep saying it.
Yeah, I just keep realizing that Disney does connect to literally everything.
Exactly.
You are able to connect Disney to just about everything, even things that you would not expect. So it's a constant surprise. on what things do. And I can usually tell when we're having a conversation with someone else, and it's just going to connect to Disney. Even if I don't know, you're going to have a way to let people know that it connects to Disney.
And usually then have to restrain myself from saying it all, because then...
Yes, it depends on the audience. You don't want to scare away people we don't know as well. But people who know you know
right,
that you've got the Disney info.
So do you have a fun bit of Disney trivia?
What was the question supposed to be? I may have a better answer for that one.
The original question that it was supposed to be was, do you do you have a favorite piece of the Disney decade? So when we're talking the Disney decade, we're really talking about the beginning of the 90s. So what about the early 90s? And let's the nostalgic Disney decade, beginning of the 90s, part of your childhood that's so Disney. That's my Disney thing.
Gotcha. Well, that would have to be, so my first trip to Disney would have been early 90s. So that's iconic. And then just the Disney movies of the time. That's what I remember, going to the movie theater and seeing The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. So yeah, that's a lot of my early memories are Disney memories. They were the big ones.
Nice. Yeah. That would have been at the same time I went to the parks too for the first time.
Yeah.
I feel like those movies were always big event movies.
Yes.
You would go get the whatever, tie-in things, watch you'd see commercials for them. And
McDonald's toys. And, you'd go to school and everyone would be talking about going and seeing whatever the big Disney movie was of the day.
And they had those big, lead-ups, the big promotional lead-ups into them where, you knew that movie was coming out.
Absolutely.
And you were, really hyped about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if kids get the commercials like that anymore.
No, but they get, that's true. Well, you get the YouTube commercials. You get the ads, yeah, absolutely. You get the advertising in other ways, not the TV commercials so much anymore.
There you go. All the marketing to us in the Disney decade.
Yes.
All right. We have more wines, even though we're done with the bottles that we have. We still have more Disney Family of Wines because they're the ones who picked them. Yes. Disney is. So I'm going to tell you about those, and then we'll do something with that, I guess, at some point. So the first one is Goji Wines, and that is Kurt Russell's winery.
Oh.
So Kurt Russell was one of those... If the Disney Channel would have existed in the 70s, he would have been the Disney Channel kid.
For sure.
Because that's all those movies he did back then. That was he's a Disney legend. He's got all those old, when he was a kid before he became, Snake from Escape from New York and stuff like that. But what's cool about his winery, and I really wanted to find some, of course, they're not too close to us where we could get them in our local establishments, is he names them things, or they name them things, because it's really him and Goldie Hawn who, of course, run it together. But they name them this is the Oliver, that's Oliver Hudson or Kate.
Yeah.
So they name it after their children, which is kind of a cool thing. They name different wines and different limited releases after people in the family. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, of course, not that easy to find out here.
No.
And then the other one that still would be part of the Disney Family of Wines is the Skywalker Ranch.
Ah, yes.
George Lucas's. Now we can go, there's a way I know we can get some Skywalker Ranch. I mean, we can't just, go out where they sell it, in California. But you could also go on a Disney cruise, and in that, they have that Star Wars bar where you could order a thousands upon thousands of dollar drink that comes with one glass of Skywalker Ranch something or other, and then you get a tour of the winery also. Okay. I can't remember the whole spiel, but you get fancy, a little sip of this and a little, a shot of whiskey and a glass of wine and a whatever, but it ends with you somehow getting to tour Skywalker Ranch.
Now, are your travel accommodations to Skywalker Ranch included?
I don't think so.
Ugh, pricey.
Who knows though? Maybe. But yeah, so it's like you go, you pay for a vacation, you buy a really expensive drink, and then you get another trip out of it or something like that.
Sort of.
Yeah. So that's something. But that's one way to get on the Skywalker Ranch, which is kind of hard to do.
Yes.
And then the last one, which I don't think would be part of the Disney family of wines anymore, but it was when the Disney family of wines got introduced back in the 20-teens, is the Lasseter wines for John Lasseter, who was big in Disney animation. Then, well, first he started in Disney animation, went into Pixar, and then became the head of the Disney animation studio. But then he stepped down. There was it's some very gray area Me Too-ish kind of stuff that happened that was not very much talked about. And now he's no longer with Disney. Like it was and it wasn't kind of thing. But yeah, so I don't think they would put him in the family of wines anymore. So there's that one. But he's still out there. He's working for some other studios now and things like that. Like he was the one who decided to step down. He wasn't pushed out. It was a whole thing. But anyway, so those are the three that were part of it originally that we couldn't get bottles for, but we'll have to keep our eyes out for some of those, especially like Goji and Skywalker when we're out in California.
Yes.
So that'll be pretty cool. Any other info you want to share about the wines or the experience of drinking them? Yeah.
Can you order these wines in Disney?
So you can at some places, and I don't have the exact wine lists in front of me, but I know like Carthay Circle in DCA has some of these on the menu, and some of like the lounges and things. I feel like out in Disneyland, there's maybe a little bit more where you can get them because it's fresh, it's local. But there are places in Walt Disney World too that some of these are still on the menu. It was a big push back like in 2016, I think when it started, they did like at Food and Wine, had like a Disney family of wines presence. And it was like specifically stated that these are the Disney family of wines at Food and Wine. And I said wine a lot of times. But no, so it was like, that's when they kind of debuted it. And then it kind of trailed off a little bit, but it's still kind of cool to take a look at these.
Yeah. So next time you're on Disney property and you're going to order a drink, take a look at that wine list and maybe try one of these Disney family of wines.
Yeah. Especially if you see it and you see one of these names, and it might not necessarily be marked as, what it is, Frank family of wines. You might just be like, whatever this Frank wine is, okay, it's just a rant, but no, it does have that company significance. All right, I do got to ask, do you have this is about the end of our wine conversation. Mm-hmm. So at the end of interviews, I usually ask, is there anything that you want to promote out there? A cause, you don't have a YouTube channel or a podcast yourself to promote?
I don't. So I work for a nonprofit, which does have a podcast. So if you're looking for some good social justice causes, check out Community Shares, represented all across the country. And we do have a podcast. You can check out some of the organizations that we support.
Well, there you go. Some good causes to support with Community Shares. Awesome sauce. All right. Well, thank you for drinking all this wine with me.
Yeah.
We'll have to get more and try it again. Although I'll have to stretch it to find more Disney other than the other couple that we still haven't had. But we'll continue to have fun like this. You should come on the show again for some reason. Well,
we do live in the same house. So yeah. I hope we continue to have fun like this.
Well, for sure.
Yes. Enjoy glasses of wine in the future. May they be Disney or not.
Yes, And then we should for sure talk about our Disneyland trip at some point after that happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe we'll get to try a couple more of those wines while we're out in California.
That's true. And for you listening out there, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Synergy Loves Company. If you want to get in touch with me online, you can find me on Instagram and Threads at Synergy Loves Company. And I'm still on Twitter there as long as it's free, or X or whatever it's called, at Eric H. Synergy. And if you're enjoying Synergy Loves Company, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who loves Disney just as much as you do. Just tell them to visit synergylovescompany.com, because sharing the show is the number one way you can support the show, and your support means the world to me. Thanks for exploring Disney's connections with me, and until next time, keep discovering the magic in everything.